Like they are, and I say this often, and Tavares may laugh, so you are free to do what you want to do, and then I'm free to do what I want to do after I see what you do.
You feel that? You feel that? That's not a threat, that's a promise.
I do live that way.
You do.
So when your grandparents, they lived through stress, they lived through trauma, they lived through so many negative experiences, it doesn't just affect them emotionally. It doesn't just impact them that way. It actually impacts you on the biological level. Because things like trauma, things like addictions, they just don't impact people emotionally. They impact the way that your genes are expressed in your actual DNA, meaning your DNA doesn't delete anything out. It changes how they're expressed. And those gene mutations, the expression of them, I should say, don't just stop with your grandparents. Meaning if they had a stress response or maybe a health risk, it doesn't end with them. It goes down to your parents and then to you. That means some of the money problems, anxiety, or health problems that you currently have are not your fault. It's literally coded in your DNA.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun. And this is Tavares of the Sun, and we welcome you to join us today in our conversation about ancestors. Tavares, would you bring us into the Call for Truth before we begin?
Well, certainly. And we encourage you all to join us in the Call for the Truth. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Should we call to see the truth in all that we see? Should we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? And shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? We are here in the truth, and
yes,
encourage you all, if you want to continue joining us in our pursuit of truth, hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification to stay in the loop. You can also join us every Thursday for our live stream at 12 noon and Saturdays at 7 p.m., high frequency living, and periodically at 12 noon for some meditations with high frequency living. So LaOta, we're talking about ancestry, and there's been a lot of things kicking up, both within the experiences of clients, within my own, your experience, and the world at large.
Yes.
Primarily for people who are on the evolutionary process of realizing that we are in a pursuit of becoming pure, but we got some taint through our ancestry. And more as I move through this process, I can see what you usually say, where this DNA, this ancestry thing is serious, even more so than past lives, because we have the broadcast of the living DNA right now, and then the broadcast of all that has came before us that's being reinforced by living DNA, and us working to offset it and move in a different direction. And so many people do see not only a struggle, but a literal pull that we're working against, a gravitational pull to pop ourselves into a higher state of elevation. So where would you like to start with this?
And so many things are going through my mind. I'm thinking of how we have discussed this topic in other ways before. But I think I'd like to open the door with, often I speak to people about the 6 generations of grandmothers that are directly connected to their DNA and their lineage, and the pain and suffering, the lies and the deceit, and all of the secrets and all of the things that have been hidden from us that happened in the lineage that created pain and suffering that is embodied within us and is sometimes triggered subconsciously through the mass consciousness, through our daily consciousness. And these things are active and living, and we all are aware that we don't know the stories, but we know there was pain and suffering, and that is affecting our disposition, even if we have ascended above it, or if we find ourselves pulled into the gravitational pull of depression and sadness that we can't figure out why we have. Maybe it's connected to our food, maybe it's connected to our circumstance. It's possible it may be connected to our ancestry. I think I'd start there.
Yeah.
And that gives us an opportunity to be compassionate with what existed before us, that is nestled within us, that is part of us, but also be clear and detached that that pain and suffering stops now, and that we won't move forward with it because it's not in our best and highest interest. It is not in accord with the laws and principles of creation. We must be self-preserving. And I think that's a very important aspect that I often speak to clients about, is that instead of being in dissidence with your ancestry, be in compassion, but detached from it. Detached from it, would be sympathetic to the fact that it's true, it's real, but you're not having it. Like, no, thank you, I will not have a second serving of that. I already have my own serving of DNA, and be willing to release it instead of being influenced by it, hijacked by it, manipulated by it. So that should give you a good place to go.
Definitely give us a very strong launching pad. And with that being said, dealing with the inner incongruency of making that type of choice for detachment. Because again, there's the magnetic pull, there's the idea of, but this is family, and being indoctrinated within these social norms of obligation to, for example, listen to the suffering of a family member, a mom, a dad, a aunt, a brother, sister, even though we know it's toxic. And so these type of programs that are running that reinforce going against self-preservation. And so there is an inner fight. And I've personally been experiencing it and realizing, like, look, my family's operating as an agent, and it can seem rather controversial because the detachment doesn't mean separation. Detach means just like what you said, like, I have compassion, which call back to the compassionate detachment that the angels have shared.
Right.
Which it doesn't mean you don't like your family or you're just like, I'm not dealing with you. It's, I have boundaries, which is in the heart space, right? I love you, but I'm not going to let you take me under, right? I'm not going to drown with you, essentially. So how can a person find congruency with preserving themselves in the face of, again, the manipulation of the coercion?
I think the first thing that we must all remember is that we are to evolve. We're not to be our parents. We're not to suffer their suffering. That was never, it is not required. It is not law in this universe that because somebody gets cut with a knife and they bleed, that I have to bleed too.
Yeah.
That's not the way this works. What happens is we are to have the clarity and the reverence for Creator that makes us grateful that we have the ability to see, oh, I should not do that. I should not be connected to that. Look at this living example in my DNA that's showing me, don't do that. Instead of falling into, well, grandma ate that and she's just fine. She ate that and she lived to be 94.
Look, they don't make them like they used to. They don't make them like they used to. Don't try that.
So that's funny.
I'm serious.
However, the very idea that we are not clear that it is our duty to evolve. We are supposed to be new. We're supposed to grow into something different. We're not supposed to, the purpose of life is not to be another Marshall's in another mall in every city.
Right.
Yeah, although that is the way we see things here in the third dimension. It's like, that was a good idea. Let's just keep doing it.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, well, and it is broken, and it does need to be fixed, and we need to evolve beyond it. So that is a reality. There is this. It is required. Our affiliation and dedication to our families is appropriate. At the same time, we are not sentenced to repeat their experience unless we choose to, which is part of our own learning process. You can choose to stay in the same grade, or you can choose to move on to the next grade. And we get stuck in our moral dilemma, like, I need to be honoring the ancestors. Well, yes, but honor them by becoming greater, because that's the purpose. It's not as if having parents and children is meant that everybody should always stay the same. It's meant that we should grow into more enlightened, more elevated, more ascended than whatever happened before us, to learn from those lessons.
Yeah.
But that's not how we're living our lives here in the third dimension.
Oh no. It's drowning. Everybody's drowning and climbing on top of each other. I got a question for you, because when people are addressing such a thing, there are levels of figuring out, well, let me articulate it this way. What would be the difference between being apathetic and discerning detachment? Because people who are choosing to not engage with suffering, there's this level of morality. I was just in a conversation with a client, and she mentioned something about homelessness and like the impulse to just give. And I said, okay, are you giving because you feel guilty? Are you inspired to give because you feel guilt? Or you're giving just really because I just want to help another soul? There's like two different type of spaces. And I shared with her, like, well, she asked, what do you do? I was like, I check, is it appropriate? And a lot of times I get no, because what I'm seeing is levels of manipulation that's utilized. And yes, I do have compassion and I give when I'm prompted. So, that could be looked at as being apathetic when you have boundaries and, you're not allowing a person's manipulation with their suffering to dictate your engagement. So would you speak a little on this?
I think that's such a good example. The idea of homelessness is that you have had examples that you have shared with me where a mother with children, will stop you, or you become aware of her and ask for assistance. And then you discern that you genuinely would like to be of assistance. Yeah. And that's how it should always be, where there's not a blanket, anybody who comes up to me, no matter what, I'm going to give them everything I got, or I'm going to give them the $5 I have in my glove box, or whatever it is. It should be that we look at each situation and we discern, is this best for me and them? Mm. We all want to give, and I have been on the other side of that as well, where I wanted to give so much I was in detriment, where I did not acknowledge that the person's ability to ask is part of the equation. When somebody is just walking around being hungry and not asking, that's one level of clarity. When a person speaks to you and says, would you help me? That's another level of clarity. And do they learn by asking, and then do you learn by giving? But if they're silent, do they also learn their silence doesn't feed them? So there's also that idea. Yeah. And so every situation, just like with anything else, and any people who work in your office or people who you interact with, it is an individual. We are each a snowflake. It is an individual experience for you to ascertain, are you being of service, or are you being a detriment? Are you going to retard their growth, or are you going to help their growth? Yes, our basic disposition should be one of willingness, but that should have parameters.
Oh, certainly.
With your own children, with your lovers, with your family, just because they ask doesn't necessarily mean it's in their best interest. And just because you want to give doesn't mean you should always give.
If you're a conscious investor looking to make a difference, you need to hear about LaOta Gold. Because doing good and doing well isn't just a dream, it's our promise. Let's face it, everyone wants their money to work harder. But what if your gold investment could do double duty? LaOta Gold is more than just precious metal. We're committed to ethical sourcing and total transparency, so you know exactly where your gold comes from and who it helps. Every ounce you invest helps support real miners and their communities with humanitarian projects and fair wages. That's not just good business, it's good for the world. You get solid, physical gold, plus the pride of knowing your investment brings hope and opportunity to families who need it most. So why settle for ordinary returns when you can spark extraordinary change? Invest with purpose. Invest with LaOta Gold. Do good, do well, and let your gold investment shine brighter than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's why it helped to just talk to your guidance, because we don't be knowing, we congested with stuff. Hey, what's in my best interest to do, y'all?
Yeah.
And that can help keep us balanced. I want to share an experience that I had recently, and I was outside communicating with some trees that are on our property, and this is a callback to LaOta is currently teaching the class on one mind reconnection, and it is through this connection with the universal mind that we can interface with a variety of different forms of consciousness, all forms of consciousness, whether it be insects,
Right.
trees, your ancestors, interdimensional beings, etc., food. And something came up regarding my ancestors, and I could feel this pull, and I needed to address it. And so I'm outside, and I'm communicating with I'm prompted, talk to the trees. Actually, you said, "Hey, are you talking to the trees?" I said, "No, but I think may need to." That was on my to-do list, and they've been wanting to talk to me, so I made the time to do it. And they showed me something quite beautiful, an analogy, and
Yes.
I'll give you the broad brushstrokes from the communication or the transmission. They were showing me how the interferences that I'm experiencing that are far back in my ancestry, that's also being broadcasted through the living DNA right now, is akin to root rot within the tree. And so I begin to explore this, and we know root rot's from overwatering, and water is associated with emotions, so toxic emotions, and it deprives the roots of oxygen. And what happens is that the roots begin to steal the life force from the rest of the tree in order to survive. And I could see that happening. I could see that acting out, that type of, it's almost
Yes.
like parasitic consuming oneself. I can see it with a variety of different family members. And then the part of me that is literally in a tussle, like, do I do this? Do I not? Right? And then they showed me this beautiful understanding of how the fruit that is bare from the tree drops down, and the seed plants a new root system, creating a new tree where it's essentially a form of detachment. And it's not that you're separate, because you can never be separate. You used to tell me back in the day, because I used to be like, man, I can't wait to ascend from my ancestry. And you're like, T, now well, apparently you don't. You can't just ascend away. You're always going to be connected. But I could see the detachment, where when you think about the new tree that's sprouting from the seed, it's still part of the tree network,
Yes.
but there's no longer that interference from the rotting of the roots.
Yes.
So I saw this, and it was so beautiful, and also showed the necessity to break off, so to say, and create the new trajectory, which is
Yes.
indicative of the timeline split as well.
Not only the timeline split, but it is actually the way of the universe. We use other language. I love the language of Father Tree and all the trees and this wonderful knowledge. But the other language could be used, that you are a fractal, you are a hologram, you are still the tree in its fractal or holographic aspect,
Yes.
which the poetic language of, the tree rerouting, that is the language of the universe. That is every iteration of everything. The greater thing is still connected within the seed of the smaller thing. So in every bean is all of the nutrients, in every seed is all of the potential exponential growth. So it is how the universe works, and what a beautiful lesson for you to get it in such poetic language. And we're so thankful to the trees.
Well,
So glad
certainly.
you had your conversation with the trees.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
expansive, because you get to experience truth in a non-biased way, but also it speaks back to what we were saying earlier,
Yes.
self-preservation. The trees see the need for self-preservation. Trees will drop limbs. They will remove aspects of themselves that, or even the sacred wood that we get, the process of the disease, and it isolates it and heals itself. The intelligence is there, but I see that we have been so out of sync with nature that when we hear these type of things, it seems controversial. It seems taboo. It goes against the morality or distorted morals that humans have, that really limits life.
The programming, the collective programming that we've been cultivated in is never go against your ancestries, but it is the growth and matriculation of intelligence that will seek to serve its own life system, so that, just like on the airplane, so that if you gain your clarity and you gain your strength, you can go back and help those who have not yet, that are drowning from the toxins of being overwarded with the negative emotions. Your clarity can help you let them have clarity. So it's just like when you're on an airplane and they say, put your oxygen mask on first.
Mm-hmm.
So it is in our best and highest interest to detach, become healthy, and then go back if possible. And if we don't go back in physical reality, go back in our love. Go back, because there is no death. There is only more. There's only another place. There's only other lives, more life, past lives. There's only hereafter. There's only all of that. So we don't have to abandon. We just have to detach so that we can get the life force streaming through us that then can feed the leaves at the end of the branch.
I got a question for you, because what you're saying actually speaks to something that I've experienced within my own experience, experience squared, but then also in a recent client as well. It's that urge to try to help family members who clearly are not positioning themselves to help themselves. One could say that now is not the time. And from a higher perspective, that was never the time to try to make someone else do something that we think they need to be doing, whether it's you need to be eating better or cleaning or whatever it is that we think is a righteous pursuit. Would you speak a little bit about this in tandem with what you were just sharing about the detachment, work on self, put your mask on first, and how souls can navigate that?
It is so important for us to recognize this is a free choice universe, and that incumbent in it being a free choice, we must honor source and creator and honor the fact that people are free, and we can go by the laws that if they reach a certain age, that then they are free of having to do what you say, but then they are free to now go and support themselves.
Right, it's a built-in consequence
Yes.
with that
Yeah.
freedom.
Like everything has its exaltation and its detriment. So if you find yourself in the house and being bullied by your children, or being pushed around, or being ignored and disrespected, the law is in effect. You can respect their right to be free somewhere else. You can expect their right to be free so we have many clients who have teenagers who are having the teenage experience, and it is encouraged that you give where you can give, where you truly see it as a benefit. And in many cases, the children are very disrespectful to what they have already received. We have not taken the time as parents to teach them to be grateful. So that's on us.
Yeah.
So then they have no gratitude. So it creates a rift, and so many of the clients come and they're having high blood pressure, they're having anxiety, they're having experiences that they don't want to have from their own DNA, and not only children but also elders and otherwise. And my response to that is that be in harmony with the fact that this is a free universe. Stop trying to make people do things. Make yourself be correct, and making yourself be correct may mean that you need to clear your house of the energy that's not in support of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually. You may need to clear, if you have a lover who's pushing you around, or if you have a sister or a brother feel free to be in the free choice universe. What often gets people is that they're attached to what the other person has. The other person has money, the other person has a car, the other person has, sway over them in some way, or they work for the other person. So the idea would be to put yourself in a position where you can be sovereignty. Be sovereign so that you can be in harmony with the laws and principles of the universe that make you choose self-preservation in honor of source, creator's free will universe. Like they are, and I say this often, and Tavares may laugh, so you are free to do what you want to do, and then I'm free to do what I want to do after I see what you do.
You feel that? You feel that? That's not a threat, that's a promise.
I do live that way.
You do. So I want to ask you one last question before we wrap up into a card pull, because the experience, again, it sounds like separation. It sounds like we have to remove ourselves from certain things that are really toxic influences, not just external, but things that are internal. Purge and release and purify ourselves. How does that tie into the idea of oneness? Would you reconcile that idea?
I don't, because it is impossible to not be connected, even if you make your artificial boundary of you live in that house and I live in this house and we live next door to each other.
Yeah, through the ether.
Yeah, I'm still breathing the same air you're breathing.
Yeah.
You're still contaminating or making my air beautiful by what you think. I'm still receptive to that. There really is separation. It is a delusion. It is a lie. It is not the truth. And it is important to know that I'm still connected to you. And when we are harmonized, come and get some of this because I love you and I got plenty of it for you.
Oh, that's, I think, a very clear example to reconcile that, because it looks like magnetism and frequency, and either y'all on the right channel today or not.
Yeah, it's like, let's see, what dial are you at? Oh, you're at 1403. I'm not at 1403.
Yeah.
When you get within the range of my bandwidth, yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way.
It's not separation. I don't not love you. I just find you not lovable at the moment.
Yeah. Be like that. Be like that. Go ahead and use that one right there. Write that down in your notes. Put it in your app. I will go ahead and do a card pull.
So what is your question today for the cards?
I'm going to ask the cards to share with us a truth that's needed regarding ancestry and purification and detachment.
All righty.
For the need or the necessity of self-preservation. It's a long question.
Yes, and the card is...
It's simple. Truth, throat chakra. Call for the truth so you may be free. Let go of them social norms, those obligations, those lies that enslave us.
I think there's so much, this sounds so simple, but there is so much to be said for the actual saying every day, I call to see the truth. I call to see the truth. Just saying that opens up an entire consciousness from Creator that is absolute in its truth. If you have never been calling for it, you may be surprised at what comes forward. We thank you all for joining us. We hope you will join us again. We greet you with the greetings of In Location Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Thank you.